All right, we are back to part 2 of how to divide using the standard algorithm and blocks. So you can see I've set up 225 divided by 5 on our interactive blocks website. And so we want to start by, we've got 5 groups set up here. And do we have enough hundreds to put in each group? And the answer is no. I could put one in the first 2 groups, but then that would leave the last 3 groups without. So that is not going to work. We're going to have to break these apart. So of course we're going to highlight them both and hit break to split them into tens. We're going to flip over to our other screen here. So over here I've got the steps for divide, multiply, subtract, and bring down. We've got our problem set up written as a standard algorithm, and we've got a tic-tac-toe board over here. Remember, the tic-tac-toe board is always going to be based on the number that is your divisor. In this case, it is F5. And just in case, we had some confusion in class today, so I just want to make sure we know that this one's always 5 times 1. This box is always whatever number times 2. In this case, 5 times 2 is, whoops, I don't seem to be on the pin for some reason. 5 times 2 is 10. This box is 5 times 3, which of course is 15. And then this box is 5 times 4, which is 20. The middle box is 5 times 5, which of course is 25. The next box would be 5 times 6, which is 30. And if you don't know these, you can skip count. There is no shame at all in skip counting. You can go 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. And then so you know your seventh box would be 35. The next box would be 40, because 5 times 8 is 40. And lastly, we have 45, which is 5 times 9. Okay, so we come back over and we say, okay, we've got our 200s blocks. It's the same thing that we were doing over here. We had our 200s. Is that enough to put one of each in each of 5 groups? And the answer is, sadly, no. So we're going to put a 0 here. We can fit 0 hundreds into each group. Okay. And then we're going to expand this to look at 22. Why is that? Well, this is tens, right? We had 2 tens, and when we broke apart our 2 100 flats, we ended up with 10 rods. So we ended up with 22 total because we already had 2. And then we broke apart 10 to make it 12, broke apart 10 to make it 22. And that is exactly what we see over here. We've got 10 rods here, 10 here, and here's 21 and 22. So we have 22. We're going to look over here. And now we're going to look at our tic-tac-toe chart, and we're going to look for what number is closest to 22 without going over. We've got 22 to use, but we don't have 23 or 24. So the highest we could possibly go to is 22. So let's look, what's the number closest to 22 without going over? Well, I think it's this 20 right here. Okay. All right. So I'm going to write the 20 here because I know 20 is how many I'm going to use. But how many can I put in each group? Well, here's how you figure that out. This was times 1, times 2, times 3, times 4. So I can put 4 of them, 4 of the 10 rods, in each of the 5 groups. My 4 is going to be written above the 2 that is in the tens place. Okay, so when I wrote this here, this was division. I'm going to put a check mark. And when I wrote the 20 down below, that was multiplying, because 4 times 5 is 20. My next step, S, stands for subtraction. I'm going to end up with 2 when I subtract. And now I'm going to bring down this 5. Okay. Well, we're going to go back over to our blocks and see what that looks like over there. Remember, I was able to put 4 tens in each of the 5 groups. So let's pop back over here. All right. So I'm going to highlight 1. I'm holding down my shift key to pick up 3 more at the same time. So I'm putting 4 in the first group, 4 tens, that's 40. Got 4 in group 2. All right, I'm going to pick these 2 up and move them closer over here. All right. They don't have to necessarily be together, but I want them to be somewhat close. And so now we have 4 in each of our 5 groups. We are left with 2 10s. Let's pop back over to our standard algorithm. This is the 2 10s we were left with. And what was this? 5 1s, 5 1s. So it all matches up. The dividing with the blocks matches up with the standard algorithm. So I want you to understand where the standard algorithm comes from. It's not just made up. It is actually based, on what would happen if we were splitting these up in real life. If these were, apples that we were dividing into baskets or whatever the situation might be. Okay. So we have our 25 ones. Do we? We don't over here. That must mean that 2 10s is not enough to put it 1 in each group. And that's exactly true. So I'm going to highlight this one and break it. And I'm going to highlight this one and break it. Because 2 was not enough to put 1 each in 5 groups. So I am going to have to treat it like ones. But I'm going to go back to my standard algorithm to figure out how many ones I can put in each group. So I'm back to my tic-tac-toe chart. I'm looking for the number closest. I'm dividing, so I'm looking for the number closest to 25 without going over. And it is indeed 25. So I'm going to write my 25 here. And what do I have to multiply 5 by to make 25? Well, it's times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to put my 5 up here. And so we can see we divided. We put the 5 up top. We multiplied 5 times 5 is 25. We're done there. We're going to subtract. We get 0. And then we're going to bring down. But there's nothing to bring down, and we have no remainder. We're at 0. So we are done with this problem. So 225 divided by 5 is 45. Okay. Let's pop back over here. And how many ones could I put in each group? Looks like 5. So I'm going to try that out. I'm going to highlight 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know, not the most exciting when I'm sitting here counting to 5 over and over. But it does help us get this concept in our brain, so it is worth it. All right, we're going to grab 5 to this group and drag 5 to the last group. All right, so does our model with our base 10 blocks support our standard algorithm? We said the answer on the standard algorithm was 45. So let's see. There are 4 10s, which would be 40, and 5 1s, which would be 45. So indeed, the two match up. So we're going to put 45 right here, and we are done. Okay, that is how we complete the problems for today.